Imagine moving to a quiet suburb for a fresh start, only to find yourself ambushed by a power-hungry HOA president who fines you $100 for a satellite dish and threatens to bulldoze your workshop because, in her words, this neighborhood doesn't need people like you. That's exactly what happened to me when I crossed paths with Diane, the tyrant of Meadowview Estates, a woman whose reign of terror ended not with my defeat but with her own empire crumbling in a spectacular fall from grace. Let me take you back to the beginning, to a driveway showdown that sparked a war I never saw coming, one that would unravel secrets, expose corruption, and leave me questioning how far is too far to defend what's yours. My wife, Laura, and I didn't come to Meadowview for its cookie-cutter lawns or identical mailboxes. We came for peace. For 15 years, I was a forensic accountant, a financial bloodhound tracking corporate crooks through mazes of spreadsheets and offshore accounts. I was good too good. My last case put 3 executives behind bars for siphoning millions from a pension fund, but one of them, a guy with eyes like a void, stared me down in court and swore he'd find me when he got out. That was it for Laura. No more, she said, her voice breaking. No more threats, no more late nights. I want boring crabgrass, not criminals. So we sold our city condo, bought a house with a yard and a workshop an hour from anyone who knew my name, and thought Meadowview, with its manicured streets, would be our sanctuary. But there was a tension here, a suffocating perfection, every lawn flawless, every car gleaming, every hedge trimmed to the millimeter. It wasn't a community, it was a stage, and Diane was its ruthless director. It started 2 weeks after we moved in. I was in the garage, losing a battle with a rusty lawnmower, grease smeared on my hands, when Diane marched up my gravel driveway, her stilettos sinking like she was personally offended by the lack of pavement. She stood there, one hand on her hip, the other clutching a thick binder like it was scripture, her face a mask of disdain. Laura peeked out the kitchen window, mouthed, "Oh," and I braced myself. "Can I help you?" I asked, trying for friendly but landing closer to annoyed. Diane's eyes, sharp as knives, scanned my property grass a touch too long, leaves from an oak tree, and, oh, the horror, a satellite dish on my roof, the one we needed for my work and Laura's evening shows. "I'm Diane," she declared, like I should have known, president of the Meadowview Estates Homeowners Association. She said president like it came with a scepter. "You're in violation," she snapped, flipping her binder open with a crack that echoed. Section C, paragraph 12, subsection B, no street visible satellite dishes. Yours is aggressively visible. I blinked, glanced at the dish, then back at her. It was installed by pros. That's where it needs to be for a signal. I kept it light, but sarcasm's my second language. "Rules are rules," she said, voice cold as a tax audit, and handed me a preprinted fine $100, doubling every 7 days if I didn't move it. "You're fining me for something I need, that was here when I moved in?" I asked, incredulous. "Meadowview thrives on order," she chirped, her smile tight and venomous. "People move here for order." Across the street, my neighbor George, a retired guy with a white beard and a permanent porch chair, shook his head and gave a sympathetic wave. "I'll look into this," I said, taking the paper. "You do that," Diane replied, her smile sharpening. "I have a keen eye for violations. Welcome to the neighborhood." She spun, heels grinding gravel, and drove off in her spotless electric SUV. Laura stepped onto the porch, arms around my waist. "She seems delightful," she said, her dry wit one of the million reasons I love her. "A real gem," I muttered, staring at the fine. It wasn't the $100, it was the sheer nerve. A chill hit me, the kind you feel when a small fight's about to blow up big. Meadowview wasn't the haven we'd hoped. George, over beers the next day, laid it out. "Place used to be normal," he said, voice rough. "Kids left bikes out, gardens got messy. Then Diane and her husband showed up 6 years ago. She warmed onto the HOA board, and it was like a python swallowing a deer, slow, methodical, till she ran everything. She fined people for nonsense, wrong paint shades, a mailbox an inch off. The Thompsons, 2 doors down, repainted their house twice because Diane said the color disrupted harmony. They sold, broke, 6 months later. She targets new folks, George said, test if you roll over. Most do. He leaned in, eyes glinting. Her husband's a mid-level guy at a hardware store, but they live like royalty, new cars, fancy trips. HOA's unpaid, so where's the money? That question lit a spark. My old life, the one I'd buried, roared back. I chased crooks who hid millions. Diane was hiding something, and I was gonna find it. The dish fine doubled to $200, but then came the real blow, a letter demanding I demolish my workshop, a shed I'd bought the house for, where I planned to build furniture, not chase numbers. Unapproved structure, it said, threatening a lien and foreclosure if I didn't comply in 30 days. Laura was pale. Just tear it down, she begged. We came for peace. But I saw it clear, this wasn't about rules, it was about breaking me. If we give in, she'll never stop, I said, voice tight. I drove to the county records office, a dusty place smelling of old paper, and found a 20-year-old permit for the workshop, signed and grandfathered. At the next HOA meeting, in a community center so sterile it felt like a morgue, I showed the permit on a projector. Diane didn't blink. County rules don't apply, she said, voice dripping scorn. Our bylaws supersede everything. Her board for nervous wrecks shifted uncomfortably. The room went silent. She was claiming her binder outranked the law. That's not how laws work, I said, barely keeping cool. It's how our laws work, she shot back, slamming her gavel. I walked out, the permit glowing uselessly, knowing this was personal. But why? Then it got vicious. Fines for grass a quarter-inch too long, trash out an hour early. Note on my car, get out. City folks aren't welcome. A scratch down my servo cameras malfunctioned. Laura jumped at every noise, pleading to sell. But I'd faced worse than Diane, I wasn't running. I set up my own cameras, logged every incident, and went full investigator. George, my wingman, ran Operation Porch Stakeout, texting me, Diane circling your house my pretty. He dropped a bombshell, every HOA landscaping job went to Greenleaf Landscaping, no bids, insane prices. I dove into old databases. Greenleaf was a ghost, no staff, no equipment, just a mailbox. But it got $6,000 monthly from the HOA, and $5,000 went to Diane's cousin, Paul. Classic kickback. The fines padded the pot she stole from, funding her SUV, her vacations, her throne. I had her, but a slow court case would let her lawyer up with our money. I needed to burn her empire down, publicly, no escape. I found a bylaw loophole, any resident could propose a community project, and with 20% signatures, the board had to vote publicly. I pitched a playground on the common area behind Diane's house, wrecking her perfect view. George, with charm and whiskey, got signatures in hours. Diane called, livid. You can't do this. I quoted her rule and hung up. At the packed meeting, I showed playground plans, parents cheered. Diane cried budget. Funny you mention money, I said, passing out a sheet comparing Greenleaf's bills to market rates $40,000 overpaid yearly. We could fund this with 1 year's savings. Her board froze, staring at her. Doubt spread. She tabled it, but the cracks were showing. Diane panicked. Next day, a bulldozer roared onto my lawn, Diane directing a crew to demolish my workshop, citing a fake emergency euro. I blocked the path, Laura called cops. George sprinted over, waving a gnome like a lunatic, yelling, the gnome CR. The bulldozer cracked the workshop slab, revealing a rusted box. Inside, a 60-year-old deed proving the common area was mine, never HOA's. Diane's dad, the developer, hid it to dodge taxes. She knew, and my playground plan forced her hand. Now I had her fraud and her secret. I went nuclear, flyering every mailbox for an emergency meeting, tipping off a reporter. The community center was a zoo residents packed in, furious. I showed the deed, proved the land was mine, and said I donated it for a city park. Cheers erupted. Then I dropped the bomb, slides of Greenleaf's payments, Paul's account, Diane's theft. The room went silent, then exploded. Diane screamed lies, but two suits IRS and DA, my guests walked in. Her board turned on her, one yelling, "I didn't know." Diane bolted, tripped over George's accidental foot, and face-planted. Cops escorted her out, her empire dust. A month later, Meadowview exhaled. Lawns got shaggy, neighbors laughed, George, new HOA president, trashed Diane's binder and threw a park barbecue. Her house hit the market. She needed cash for her plea deal, probation, restitution. One day, she stood at my door, no suit, just jeans. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Dad built this place. I thought I was protecting it." I said nothing. My prize wasn't her fall, it was Laura planting roses, my workshop standing, our home ours. Justice isn't always vengeance, it's clearing the rot so life can grow. But was I right to destroy her so publicly? Or did I become the bully? What would you do if someone came for your home? Drop a comment, share your take. Let's talk.